So in the last video, we ended things rather abruptly with a clearly incorrect looking material on the screen. And I just had a quick little play around to try and figure out what was going wrong and ended up with something that feels a lot more like the surface that we're trying to create. So if we have a little look at them side by side, we can see that the version on the right clearly has some technical issues that are preventing it from looking like a dirt cracked ground. So let's run through the list of things that led to this happening. First of all, if we go ahead and have a look at the material that's applied to this object and have a look at the normals, we can see that the normals actually don't even use, they didn't even have proper normal map compression, because if we switch over to the normal and we go ahead and flip the green, we can see that we end up with this terrible looking result. Sometimes it can trick you into looking like it's kind of working, but it's definitely not correct because we've used the incorrect export format. Secondly, if we go ahead and pull this light, we can see that we're not actually getting any correct elevation information, and some of the areas that are supposed to be cracks are actually raised. So we need to address both of these issues. If we go over to Houdini and we have a look at the output of the bake color, then even just by looking at it, we can see, especially if we look at the equalize, we can see that we're not getting cracks where we would expect to see cracks, but rather these sort of white streaks. So I'm going to go ahead and put down an invert node after an equalize function, and we're actually going to switch to using this equalize in the rest of the chain too. So we're going to pass that through rather than dealing with the non-equalized version and equalizing it later. So the first thing that comes out of the bake should be an equalize so that we can see what we're working with, and then we're going to invert it, and now we can see we are getting the correct height output. Okay, so that's dealt with the height, but what about the normals? Well, for the normals, we can obviously see we have these seams that we need to still deal with, but for now, the part that we care most about is making sure that the export is correct. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to make sure that we export in raw, so we're going to export without any color space conversion. And we go ahead and hit render to disk, and we're going to go and set raw on the masks as well, because we don't want them to do any sRGB to linear or things like that. So now if we go ahead and select all of these textures and hit re-import, I'm going to see that we get a lot closer to what we're after, and largely now the issues that we're seeing come from not the textures themselves, because we can see that the shadows are all coming from the right direction, but just the strength of the normal map being a little bit too intense for what you're after. But that's really a matter of personal preference. So yeah, that was how we went from an image that looked completely incorrect to getting more interesting and subtle play of light and shadows across the surface of this material, which are more true to life.